You are now listening to Carlie's Couch.
I'm Carlie.
And I'm Lex.
In this podcast, we discuss a wide array of topics about life and how to live your best life.
Whatever that looks like for you.
Hope y'all enjoy. Stop overthinking your emotions and feel them. This week on Carlie's Couch, we discuss an actionable 3-step process to help you rewire how you process emotions.
Happy Monday. Thanks for joining us on Carlie's Couch. I'm Lextopia.
And I am CC Fierce / Carlie Carpio. We're excited to be here this week, but first we have a very fun question from the couch that we got hella responses on. So that question is, what role would you play in a post-apocalyptic world?
So one person said that they would be the builder, that they would build things, anything, which we definitely need more people like that.
Mm-hmm. Someone else said they would be in charge of navigation and directions.
Another one said they would be the bounty hunter, which is always somebody in every movie on a horse who's like after somebody to get money.
Someone said they would be the I told you so guy, or the you all thought I was crazy, but look at things now, dude.
Not helping nothing. Another person said they would give safe space, They would be a giving safe space caretaker, but with a little cult leader vibe. Okay.
And then someone said they would be the oracle, the keeper of knowledge, the knower of things, because they're not doing anything physical.
Another one said random knowledge haver. I know what drugs in the pharmacy can help infection or pain, or which ones aren't worth the time. So that sounds like you should be a pharmacist, but I'm going to let that ride.
And then they also said that they can sew by hand and crochet so they can help make stuff, and that they can cook and bake. And they have also cooked on a fire outdoors. Okay. So multi-talented.
So be a wife is what they said they were going to do. Another one said, I'll be the dead one. I'm not trying to fight people for food. That's real.
And someone else said, I fully expect myself to be dead. But if I'm still here, a strategist.
If you expect yourself to be dead, I don't want you to be my strategist. Another one said a warlord. If that position is not available, I will be locked in my house with my dog. I am legend style.
Someone else said that they're hiding, also probably in their house. I am legend style. Sis is tired.
Another one said a forager, or the person who keeps the fire going. And they said they've thought way too much about this since watching Outlast and Alone.
Someone else said they'd be the arms dealer. And I got a couple of those like old guns, arms dealer, shooters.
And see, everybody always wants to talk about how people at the top of the chain are capitalists and they make money off of war, etc. And look at where y'all mind goes immediately. So let's remember that. Ain't nobody said they want to keep the pieces at one person. Another one said king. No other job I want or require.
And then the last person said that they would be a teacher and take care of the young children.
Cool. So it looks like we got everything covered as far as somebody to find food. I didn't really see anybody say like hunter for real.
Yeah, we probably need that.
We got people who could keep things done. I need y'all to focus on electricity and communications, because I didn't hear about that. And being able to build the things like electronic type things, or like how would you get that stuff moving again?
Where are my engineers at? Where y'all at? Come on, computer scientists.
Right.
Now's your time to shine.
So think about that, because y'all know we don't got but so much time. I saw something the other day about how plants aren't absorbing carbon dioxide anymore or the same way. So like at this point, I'm just like, all right, bet. Let me get my years in, but I don't know if there's that much time left.
And a positive light on that, but yes, that is true. I saw that, I want to say it was Thailand, but some country planted enough trees over the past few years that they've lowered their general temperature. So it hasn't kept in line with anybody else in global warming. So they've offset the effects on temperature rising in global warming by planting more trees. Like, who would have thought? But a little bit of positive news in a very bleak spot when it comes to society. But anyways, okay, so back to today's story, back to today's topic on processing big emotions. So I was talking to my therapist, and
sounds like the beginning of a Seinfeld bit. I was talking to my therapist.
I mean, it should.
And he said, what emotions?
So I only talk to my therapist every once in a while, but I noticed that I was like feeling kind of stuck, and I wanted to talk through it because I haven't felt that in a long time. But I want to start with saying, like, the issue isn't emotions. Emotions are a very physical, natural thing. They're meant to happen, and they're great. They are indicators of what's going on. But the issue is that when we tend to think about our emotions or overly intellectualize them, we end up getting stuck in them. So by trying to make sense of them, by trying to think through them and explain them and provide narratives, we really get stuck. And it's like not every emotion has a logical explanation. So I want to talk about how we actually get through that process of feeling an emotion and letting it go and not getting stuck.
Okay, so where do we start?
So Dr. Jill Bolt Taylor, a Harvard neuroscientist, says there's a 90-second chemical process that happens in the body. And after that, any remaining emotional response is just the person choosing to stay in that emotional loop. And so thinking about, oh, wow, there's only a 90-second physical reaction in our body. And whenever we process emotions, I feel like there tends to be a lot more than that. But after that 90 seconds, if you continue to feel fear, anger, so on, you really need to look at the thoughts that you're thinking and that are starting to re-stimulate that circuitry. And so that results in you getting stuck in these loops and getting stuck in what's called an amygdala hijack. And that's whenever strong emotions take over the thinking part of your brain, causing intense emotional reactions and out of proportion. So it's like you get an emotion, you start to think about it, the thinking then triggers that emotion again, and you kind of get stuck in this loop.
So does this apply to the emotions that we tend to feel throughout the day as things happen? Because it sounds like, 90 seconds, that might be, if you have some quick feeling of something, or if you were scared or a car got too close to you or whatever, right, that you should be able to go through this process and be through it within like the 90 seconds. Mm-hmm. But when there's things that seem much bigger, like heartache, or if you've gone through a breakup or somebody hurt you in some way, does that apply here as well, and how? Whereas, okay, it doesn't take 90 seconds, to not feel those things anymore. And or is it relating to like every time that feeling pops up, letting it flow through in that amount of time?
That's a great question. I'm not actually sure for like the deeper emotions like heartbreak, but I would say a lot of times what happens is we do get stuck in that amygdala hijack and that loop because we experience this really big heartbreak. We cry, then we start thinking of all the things we did wrong, all the things we could have did better, all the things they did wrong, all the things they could have did better. And so we do infinitely create these loops no matter what it is. I do think that grief and other emotions are probably not necessarily just that 90 seconds, but I think that if that wave hits you of heartbreak, of grief, of sadness, of whatever, if you're able to feel it in your body, name it, process it, and let it go, it doesn't impact you the same way and you won't get stuck.
Mm-hmm. And also referring to the 90 seconds, correct me on what exactly it was that you were saying for 90 seconds, but personally I can understand if what we're saying is, okay, and within the 90 seconds might be that initial like fear or initial like, oh, I felt sad about a thing. But that's not necessarily talking about the time to process it. It's just saying like if something hits you, then you can feel it for that time, but you can be able to move through it a little more quickly, and not necessarily saying process as in like, oh, I'm completely healed from ever feeling, that emotion again, or from that hurting me or scaring me or me feeling any kind of way.
Yeah. So I think the difference is like you can feel a little sad. And there might not be any reason. You might not have eaten enough. Your sugar might have dropped. You might be tired. It might just be an amalgamation of all the things happening in your life. But if you sit in it and you're like, oh, man, why am I sad? My mom didn't call me back and she kind of had attitude. And, my best friend, just canceled on me for my birthday. And all of a sudden your brain starts looking for 1,000,010 reasons why you're sad. And now you're really sad. And now you're stuck in this sadness. And so I think when we think about emotions, the actual chemical process of sadness, of anger, of anything that happens, fear in our bodies, is only 90 seconds. And if you allow yourself to feel it, and we'll talk about the 3-step process and ways to do that and process it and let it go, then you'll have a clearer mind to then deal with the healing and the true processing of, what's going on. Because also maybe there's not any processing. Maybe you just had a fleeting feeling. Like feelings are not facts. They're just indicators of however we are feeling in that moment.
So is this something that you go through often, like throughout the day, where you have a lot of different feelings and you identify them and go through them?
I wouldn't say like now I do it kind of just naturally, but before when I first started, it was a big thing for me to learn how to name my emotions and to feel where they are in my body and to do the process. But like I said, I thought it was interesting because I haven't really been stuck in an emotion in a long time. And I was like, oh, I wonder why this one is different. And so I was like, oh, this actually might be useful, even if you are, pretty far along on your healing journey or think you have a good relationship with it. If you've noticed like that you get stuck in these loops, this is a way to help you kind of circumvent that, clear your head, not saying it'll heal all the feelings and all the narratives and stuff, but give you a space to start from a clear head to approach them.
Mm-hmm. And so before we go through the 3-step process, let's talk a little bit about what some of us tend to do when you're feeling an emotion, and that is intellectualizing it. That is something that I enjoy doing a lot. Like I enjoy intellectualizing everything. If I have a question that comes up, if I'm feeling something, and then it makes me think, what is that saying about me? Or what can I do to get through this situation? Or, I'll recognize an emotion or that I feel about something, some kind of way, and then I want to explore it. And I have this a desire to make things mean something, or understand the meaning, or where is it coming from, or what is it saying about me? How could I approach this? How can I use this in some way? And so I'll end up doing a lot of Googling and reading blogs, or, maybe you listen to a podcast. If you're going through a particular thing like a breakup or something, that's always a good time to pull up Baggage Reclaim or pull up certain interviews and things. And you want to hear information that helps you think about, where did I do this or that? And how could I reset my mindset and all of those things? What's wrong with that?
I don't think anything is wrong with it. I also like to explore, and I'm trying to heal. And so we research a lot. We do all that. I think the issue is whenever you tend to think more about your feelings than actually feeling them, then they get stuck in your body. And that's the issue. The Body Keeps the Score is that book, but there is a lot of trauma and things we hold in our bodies because we never actually process them. That's how people are dying from all these heart attacks from stress and stuff like that, because they're not actually processing. We're thinking a lot about the feelings. We're Googling about them. We're creating narratives as to why we feel these certain ways, but we're not actually just allowing it to pass through our body. It's a chemical process. And so just thinking about it like that, even whenever we intellectualize, okay, so you wake up and you might be feeling a little angry or a little frustrated. You're like, you know what? My life isn't going the way I thought it would right now. I thought this year my company would have had this much money. And then you start to go down this whole path. And now you're in a meeting and you're frustrated, and then you're frustrated with a client. And it just kind of lingers, as opposed to feeling the frustration, taking a moment for yourself, figuring out what you need to do. And then later, I wonder why I am frustrated. What is frustrating for me right now? And then making it an exercise. That's different. But than getting stuck. I think exploring it and being curious is a beautiful thing to do with yourself on your healing journey in life, in love, all of that, but not getting stuck in the feelings and then letting it color your world and your reality in that moment.
I think the very important thing is that you have to be sure that you are feeling the emotion, because without doing that, you're not doing what your body is meant to do with those feelings. And so all the intellectualizing can be a cool part of the process. It can be interesting. You can learn things, and you will probably still be in a cycle of being a trigger happy at that emotion, and or that emotion affecting you or continuing to pop up if it's around a specific situation. Especially one of the things that I would learn from my therapist through her example is that you'll go into a session if you're kind of thinking about something already and talking about the thing that happened. And so I'm thinking about this, or how could I move through it? Or, and I'm already presenting, trying to figure out how do you fix something or get through it, right? And she'll always be the one to get emotional, or I'm over here talking all right, so, this is just a random example, but it's we broke up on Tuesday. I've been feeling real good though. This happened, that happened. And what I've been doing is I've been trying to work on this instead, da, 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 da. And then I'll do all this talking, and then she'd be like, man, you broke up. That's a really tough thing. And I'd be like, oh yeah, yeah, you're right. I guess it is a tough thing. Or deeper situations that are more of I'll talk, and then she'll be looking like she's about to be crying for real. And I'd be like, she's that's really sad. That's really messed up. That shouldn't have happened. And it always reminded me oh yeah, we do that with other people as well. Sometimes that they're talking, and then you're kind of getting to solutions, or, moving through or trying to help. And a lot of times with ourselves and other people as well, sometimes you really need to acknowledge to yourself that, oh man, this hurts right now, or man, I do feel lonely, or I do feel angry, or I do feel sad, and let yourself feel that way. It does kind of feel a little more freeing and a little bit lighter as you go through it. So let's get into what that process looks like. So now the next time that you kind of are chilling or doing something, whatever, and you kind of get an emotion that you want to feel. And I think this also works for the happy emotions or the good emotions too. Like, don't forget to feel those, which often I think we focus on what we would call the negative emotions, but often we need to spend more time with the positive ones as well. So step 1, Carlie Carpio.
Identify the emotional reaction. We talked about there's an emotions wheel, and it's helpful if you're not sure what you are feeling. It'll help you delineate, like there's like happy emotions, sad, like different ones, and you can be like, oh, I'm sad, oh, I'm disappointed, or you can kind of figure it out. And you might not know, but you might just be able to be like, this feels kind of blue, this feels a little bit sad. So checking in with yourself, the act of asking yourself, okay, what's going on in my body? I'm feeling kind of sad. Man, I feel something in the pit of my stomach. I'm feeling a little heavy, like a little bit let down. Thinking about what you're thinking about right now. So maybe writing down all of your thoughts and things, or just like pondering them. And then thinking like, oh, did something directly make this happen? Like, can you pinpoint it or can you not? Don't start to over explain it. Like if you just got fired, of course you might be sad or whatever, broken up with, etc. But then noticing your tells for different emotions. So as you improve your relationship with your emotions, you'll be able to be more in touch with them. Like, oh, I'm feeling really anxious right now. My chest is tight. Like, oh, my or I'm very angry right now. I'm doing my little clenched fist and my jaw is super tight and I want to fight somebody. Like, you'll start to notice all your own little tells and helping you figure out what you're feeling.
And some of the tells can be things like talking too much, or like you shut down, just recognizing certain things you may do in different situations. Because those are a couple that I will do sometimes. With this, it sounds like we just said to not intellectualize, and then it's like, ask yourself this, and then ask yourself that, and then ask yourself this. And a thing to remember, though, is that by intellectualizing it and saying you're making it all in this big process, it's kind of like looking outward, as opposed to this being like to check in with yourself. I think that's the biggest difference there, is just literally checking in with yourself. Don't run to WebMD, don't run to a blog and all of that, but like, ask yourself first, how do you feel? I've done that before where I kind of feel some kind of way, and then I'm literally like researching to figure out what I feel or what's going on with me. And it's like, or you could just sit down for a second and kind of investigate that within yourself.
Mm-hmm. The second part is labeling the emotions. So I got a little bit ahead of myself. So step 1 is checking in with yourself. Step 2 is actually labeling, because by being able to put a name with an emotion and something that you're feeling, it actually creates distance between you and the feeling. It can feel less heavy and less all-encompassing. And so practicing being able to say, I feel angry. I know a lot of people don't let themselves feel bad emotions, quote unquote. No emotion is bad or negative, but like letting yourself feel angry, letting yourself feel sad. Or even if you don't want to be like, I am angry, you could be like, man, I feel anger coming up right now. I feel a lot of anger in my body. And if you have trouble labeling, look through those emotions wheel and ask like, oh, if you had to pick between mad and sad, which one feels more in alignment? If you had to pick between sad and afraid or ashamed, and thinking through that, and start to practice this as a neutral, non-judgmental observer of your own self.
And so once you're actually feeling some kind of way, acknowledging how you feel, and putting a label to it, you have to do that in order to accept it. You kind of have to label it instead of just letting it flow through and just live there. Because once you actually accept it, you're allowing the feelings to come and go without the judgment, without that story. When you say like, oh man, I am feeling angry right now, I've done that all the time. And you're not necessarily trying to figure out the why, or like break it down to when you were 3 years old, or what this person said or did. And it is something about just saying that, like, man, I am so angry about this. You are accepting how you feel and recognizing how you feel without trying to necessarily fix the thing. And there's something about that does tend to make me feel better. It allows me to kind of feel like I'm more on the outside of things, and how she was saying with labeling it and not judging yourself and not judging the feeling, you can kind of observe it. It's like you separate yourself to like, all right, I'm feeling angry. And then sometimes maybe I'll say like, all right, but I'm, not gonna let that affect my work right now or what I'm doing right now. Or man, I got to think about that, figure that out, later. Or maybe you sit in it and write how you're feeling. Whatever you do next, it's almost like you are the observer of that emotion and allowing it to kind of flow through. It also allows you to validate yourself, like how I was saying earlier, when my therapist all of a sudden would be like, yeah, that's actually really sad. It's like, oh, like that is validating what I'm saying. And then you recognize that you could do that more for yourself. A lot of times if we feel sangry, sad, angry, sangry, all of those things, then we are looking for somebody else to even make us feel better or to tell us that something's okay, or we need them to congratulate us, or whatever the validation of the emotion might be. And consider that you can validate yourself if you're sad or angry or happy or excited or whatever it is, that you can do that work instead of sitting in it for other people.
Yeah, and letting it weigh you down. So 3 steps. Check in with yourself. Notice what's going on. Practice labeling it and figuring out how to put space between you and your emotions, and being very non-judgmental with yourself, and then accepting it so you can validate yourself. I think whenever my mom passed, my best friend actually 2 of my best friends came out to Oklahoma with me to spend some time, and my cousins, which they're much older, they're like all six years older than me, so I'm the baby. So they used to pick on me relentlessly. Anyways, they were telling funny stories and they were laughing. And we were all laughing about it. My best friend looked at me and looked at them and was like, actually, this isn't funny at all. Like, y'all, that's mean. That's actually really mean. She's like, I'm not going to laugh about that because that's mean and y'all shouldn't have did that to her.
Right.
And it was the first time I ever stopped and was like,
You be like, yeah, it was.
You're right. It was, that is mean. Huh. And not to like sit in it, but also like, wow, it feels so good to validate yourself in your feelings and know that it's okay to feel the things that you feel, and also to not be ashamed or have to label yourself like, oh, I'm a sad person, I'm an angry person. We all have these emotions every single day. The biggest difference in learning a process and how to process emotions for me, it was that it helped me separate an emotion from the narratives that I was telling myself. So for example, like, oh man, if I'm feeling really like down today, I start thinking, it's because I'm not a good worker, all my clients don't really love my best friend. And you just notice all the negative stories you start telling yourself. And so I would say, throw back to our episode with the therapist, Stevon Lewis, about imposter syndrome. If you notice that the moment you feel an emotion, all these negative words and stuff start coming after it, challenge it with the truth. Like, man, do they really? Or am I just having a bad day today because, I got these last 5 text messages last month saying how I was impacting people's lives and changing them, and start to just challenge those negative narratives with the truth. And then also stopping to ask yourself what you need in that moment. I feel like that's a big inner child exercise, is when you are feeling sad, when you are feeling angry, what do you need? And make it a practice of being able to provide yourself with whatever it is you might need in that moment.
We just did an episode on the sneaky signs of insecurity. And so a lot of times things that we're feeling as far as emotions that tend to keep popping up may also help you identify things that you might be insecure about, things that are consistently bothering you. And so a challenge with being able to process your emotions sometimes is that, hey, like, we are not perfect. So there is going to be things that happen. There are going to be mess ups. There are going to be real life stories and things with your relationships and family. And there's so many emotions. And so allowing yourself to like acknowledge like, hey, I am going through some different things, or I do feel these different things, can maybe actually even help combat some of the places where you may feel shames or insecurities. And by processing more of these emotions, I think you kind of also get to a point where it's just not so accumulated, and that makes it a little less heavy when, small things happen, as opposed to being the person where, a small thing happened and like that's the straw that breaks the whole camel's back, because you haven't been processing through so much stuff. And now you get to the point where everything just explodes.
So take some time this week, man, struggling out here today. Take some time this week to sit with your emotions, to feel them, identify them, notice what your tells are, and practice validating yourself, giving yourself what you need. I would love to hear, what might be helpful or what's something you've done to help you process big emotions. Hit us at Carlie's Couch on all social media platforms.
Peace out. See you next week.
Bye, y'all.